Championships are built in the regular season. And that statement couldn't be more true when you look at the season that the Philadelphia Eagles had compared to the season that the Kansas City Chiefs had. Before I go any further, let me congratulate the Philadelphia Eagles for winning this year's Super Bowl, beating the Kansas City Chiefs 40-22. Now, it was a dominant performance. It felt like the Eagles were just on a different stratosphere once they got off the bus. The physicality, the execution, it was perfect. It felt like the Eagles could do no wrong. Now, when you look at 40-22, you think, damn, that game got out of hand fast. And surprising as it is, I'll say the first quarter, Kansas City Chiefs defense played really well. It was a back and forth. I think at the end of the first quarter, it was 7-0 Philly. The Kansas City Chiefs defense was playing. In fact, as shocking as it is, I will say probably up until 5-6 minutes going into, 5-6 minutes left in the second quarter, I would say Kansas City Chiefs defense was playing extremely well. Now, you're probably saying, Jalen, how the hell were they playing well? And they were down 24-7 or 24-0 going into half. And that's kind of where my statement that the habits that you build in the regular season directly correspond with if you're a championship caliber team or not. What has been the chatter surrounding the Kansas City Chiefs all year? The chatter surrounding the Kansas City Chiefs has been, they look shaky. Their offensive line isn't that good. In fact, statistically, they had one of the worst offensive lines in football majority of the season. They were winning these close games. And while some will look at it and say, oh, they're gritty wins, they find a way to win, others look at it and say, well, if it wasn't for a blocked field goal, if it wasn't for a Raiders blunder, if it wasn't for a late game interception, their record will look very different. We talked about the weapons, how, not having Rashid Rice throughout the whole year, but you still have Xavier Worthy, but he's still a rookie. Travis Kelce hasn't looked great all year. These are all the habits that was being built up throughout the year for the Kansas City Chiefs. While, yes, they were winning, but there's a difference between convincing wins and just scraping by wins, and it felt like the Kansas City Chiefs all year were getting just winning by the skin of their teeth. Now, again, a win is a win is a win is a win, but not wins are created equally. I said this, and I've said this a lot. Winning blinds you from what's reality. Winning is able to blind you from what you really need to be focused on. While, yes, everyone that looked at the Kansas City Chiefs knew their offensive line was a problem. Knew they didn't, outside DeAndre Hopkins and Xavier Worthy, Travis Kelce has turned himself into an unreliable option for the Kansas City Chiefs, at least this year and a little bit last year. Hollywood Brown came back late, so he's still trying to get his rhythm. Isaiah Pacheco came back late, so he's still trying to get his rhythm. There's a reason why a lot of people, in fact, I'll say it like this. The reason why a lot of people picked the Kansas City Chiefs to win this game wasn't because, outside of Kansas City Chiefs fans, wasn't because they were so confident that this is a dominant team. Not because the Kansas City Chiefs showed that championship pedigree week after week after week in the regular season, not because they just look like a juggernaut. They picked them either because A, they didn't want to see the Eagles win. That was me. Or B, they had the best player in football in Patrick Mahomes. While he may not have had the best season, he is unequivocally the best player in football. But if you just look at the regular season habits, why is my hoodie going crazy right now? Lord have mercy. There we go. If you look at the regular season habits, nothing outside of their win-loss record would have had you think that this team, I'll say this, and their defense. Their defense was really good with Chris Jones and Kalafkis. Their defense was really good, which goes back to my first point. The defense came to play at least the first half of the game. Again, 24-7 doesn't look like the defense showed up, but the defense played well. It was poor offense and untimely penalties from the defense. They'll have a huge third down stop that gets negated by a penalty. That gets negated by a stupid roughing the passer or a stupid unnecessary roughness. In fact, I would say that everything we saw and every issue that the Kansas City Chiefs had all year permeated itself and reared its ugly head this game. Kansas City Chiefs was prone this whole year to have slow starts offensively, which is why the defense was so highlighted, because they needed to show up. Their offense would be bad a lot of games. And they'd have one or two big plays here and there in the third or fourth quarter, which would help them gain the lead or whatever. But they didn't have it was very rare that the Kansas City Chiefs had a complete game. I think their most complete game, and one of the few complete games they had, was against the Buffalo Bills last week, or in the AFC Championship. Well, yeah, that's all good and dandy when you're playing the Raiders, when you're playing the Denver Broncos, when you're playing the Houston Texans, but you're in the Super Bowl. You can't get off to a slow start, especially with a team like the Philadelphia Eagles. I'm going to get to them in a second. Trust me, I know that I'm spending a lot of time on the losing team. But I'm, as much as it's going to pain me, I'm going to give the Philadelphia Eagles their shine. This Super Bowl was lost in the regular season. Again, outside of Kansas City Chiefs fans, no one really had confidence that this Kansas City Chiefs team was going to three-peat because of all the habits that we've seen them develop in the regular season. The biggest saving grace they had was their defense and having Patrick Mahomes. And we've seen Patrick Mahomes do less with, or do more with less. But every negative habit that the Kansas City Chiefs developed over the regular season, we saw in the Super Bowl. They lost because of their offensive line play. Their offensive line could not contain the Philadelphia Eagles to save their life. Patrick Mahomes was sacked 6 times, and a lot of those wasn't on Patrick Mahomes. I know that stats don't tell the whole story, but a lot of those 6 sacks that Patrick Mahomes had or was faced was not on him. It was he literally just didn't have time. And then you have some look, at the end of the game, later on in the show, I'm going to do winners and losers of the NFL season. I'm going to do 5 winners. I'm going to do 5 losers. And one thing that I hate is when you abandon something sooner than you have to. Not only did the Kansas City Chiefs abandon the run, they didn't even utilize it. They had 11 between Patrick Mahomes, Kareem Hunt, Samaje Perine, and Isaiah Pacheco. They had 11 rushes. Now, I understand how vaunted this Philadelphia Eagles defense is, but to make yourself that one-dimensional, especially when you know how poor your offensive line is crazy to me. This was one of the first games I've seen where it felt like the great Andy Reid and the great Spagnuolo was outcoached. Shouts out to the Philadelphia Eagles coaching staff. It didn't seem like – it seemed like the only answer that the Kansas City Chiefs had all night during the Super Bowl was, hey, yo, Patrick Mahomes, save us. Travis Kelce had what? 4 catches for 39 yards. Xavier Worthy had 8 catches for 157 yards, but outside of that, DeAndre Hopkins, 2 catches, 18 yards. Juju Smith-Schuster, 2 catches, 16 yards. Hollywood Brown, 2 catches, 15 yards. That's your receiving core right there. There's a lot of ramifications, and I'm going to get to the Eagles in a second. There's a lot of ramifications, and we're looking at, when things like this happen, we look at teams, we look at players differently. And let me talk about the Eagles first before I give my conclusion for both teams. The habits that were developed in the regular season was the downfall of the Kansas City Chiefs. The habits that were built in the regular season is the reason why the Philadelphia Eagles are now NFL's or Super Bowl champions. Getting Saquon Barkley, getting someone like Zach Bond, who I think was even a little bit more than Saquon, he was the biggest reason I think that the Philadelphia Eagles are where they are. That Zach Bond acquisition was beautiful and worked to perfection. I mean, he had I think he had an interception this game. Whether we talk about Saquon Barkley and the incredible season that he had, whether we talk about this defense being as vaunted, again, with Zach Bond, Josh Sweat, the exciting white Cooper DeJean, who had a pick 6 on his birthday for the Super Bowl. Shouts out to him. C.J. Gardner-Johnson. You still had Jordan Davis. You had Jalen Carter. Going into this game, it was clear, and I said this, I think, last episode when I gave my I know people are going to say, well, Jalen, you picked the Kansas City Chiefs to win. Like I said, outside of Kansas City Chiefs fans, the only reason why people pick the Kansas City Chiefs is because A, they don't want to see the Philadelphia Eagles succeed, or B, they have Patrick Mahomes. I was on the A side. I just didn't want, being a Commanders fan, being in AFC East, I don't want to see another AFC East team flourish. The only time I'm rooting for an AFC team outside the Commanders is whoever's playing Dallas. That's it. But put all that aside, it was clear who had the better team. In fact, this entire year, regular season, postseason, this entire year, I said that there was two teams that had the clear-cut best rosters in football: the Detroit Lions and the Philadelphia Eagles. And once the Detroit Lions started getting injury after injury after injury after injury, I said the best roster in football is the Philadelphia Eagles. From Jalen Hurts, A.J. Brown, Devontae Smith, Dallas Goedert, Saquon Barkley, Jahan Dotson, getting him from Washington. Like I said, the defense. Top to bottom, there is not a team in the NFL that is better roster-wise than the Philadelphia Eagles. And like I said earlier, you can tell once they got off the bus, from play one to the last play of the game, they left no doubt who the better team was. From intercepting Patrick Mahomes twice to forcing a fumble, again, sacking Patrick Mahomes 3 times, completely owning the line of scrimmage. This was the most frustrated, and it just felt like Patrick Mahomes, while I'm not going to say he lost faith, but it felt like he was lost. Like he just didn't know. He just didn't have an answer. Oh man, you stayed to the end of the video. I appreciate you. If you like what you saw, be sure to hit that subscribe button so you'll never miss any content from your boy. You can also go back and watch past episodes, past clips, and don't forget that the Unpopular Podcast, new episodes drop every Wednesday and Saturday. Appreciate you.